Got it. How do you live with that? Anyway, how do you live with that? I'm telling you.
Hey everybody, today the Drink Brothers are going to Bloomfield, Indiana to the Feed Store Brewing Company.
Where's that located at, Mike?
Bloomfield, Indiana. Thing is, Josh told his wife he's going fishing.
As long as she don't find out.
Hey, Steve. Hey, guys. What's going on?
How you doing, brother?
Good. Good.
Beautiful place.
Yeah, thanks. You want me to show you around?
Absolutely.
All right. One of the benefits of the delays that we had getting started was we learned a few things not to do, and start out too small is one of those things. So I think we've got enough capacity that we'll be able to grow into it pretty well.
All right.
Yeah, great. So this is our cake washer. Hook it up, and so you can do about 25, 30 cakes an hour.
That is great.
All automated.
So it's a big power washer.
Yeah, really. Yeah, this part right here hooks on to the keg, and then I use it as a bookshelf too. This hooks onto the keg. You flip it upside down, set it on there, push go. It's got all these automated valves. The detergent's in there. Purges it out with air, flushes it out with hot water, then it runs the detergent through, purges it, then it purges it with CO2 so that it's all ready for beer.
Very nice.
Not a whole lot back here, storage area, but the grain room is in here. So this is a neat piece of kit we've got. Our mill, it mills everything into the bin there. And then I've got an auger system that drags a chain through the loop, and so it drags all the grain up to the mash tun.
Wow.
And then the empty chain comes back through here.
There's a lot to this.
Oh yeah. I was originally going to dump the grain in by hand because I didn't have the money to pay for the auger system. We found this used at an auction from a brewery up in Noblesville that was closing.
Awesome.
So we saved a good amount of money on it and saved my back a lot of work.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because one batch is about 8 to 10 bags of grain.
I don't think people realize that, do they?
No.
How much work it goes into.
No, yeah, this is only about 3 or 4.
So what do you got? What do you got in here? You got
This is all base malt, so it's going to be pale malt, or I've got some Munich and some Vienna as well. Munich's a little more toasty. It gives the beer more orange color, like the Fest beer, Marzen. And then I've got some wheat here as well. This is red wheat. Over here is our specialty malts. So I've got on top, there's a bag of smoked malt, which we bought when we made the smoked porter. And then I've got some caramel malts and some other things like that in there. And,
I think I've seen something where you can actually roast rye or something and that gives different colors.
yeah, so I've got a buddy, that actually, the guy from Sugar Creek Malt that did all these up in Lebanon, which is another place maybe you guys should check out sometime, just northwest of Indianapolis. And he does all of his own malting there. And so yeah, if you roast it, it'll give it a little more color, and the time and temperature really tells where it's going to be, like a light orange color or just that black burnt coffee bean color.
Okay.
And that's what gives you the coffee and chocolate and toffee flavors.
It's an absolute science, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And the smoke malt is super cool. He built his own Nordic style smokehouse. And so he's got this big raised bed that sits up about that high. It fills up the whole end of the smokehouse.
Wow.
And just whatever, so that was on alder wood. So he just loaded alder wood underneath of it, got the smoke going, and smoked a couple thousand pounds of that. And
I didn't realize when I'm enjoying my favorite beer that all this is going into it.
oh yeah, it's ridiculous.
What about what's in this bag right here?
This is rice hulls. So when you get rice, it doesn't have any hull to it, right? It's just the grain. So they pull the hulls off, and then you can use them in your brews. When you're doing wheat, wheat also doesn't have a hull, and there's a few other grains that don't. Those just want to gum up and stick together, and then your mash will get what they call stuck, where the water won't drain through. And so if you sprinkle about 20 pounds of rice hulls, which is a half a bag, that's a 55-pound brick of rice hulls. sprinkle about 20 pounds into your 400 pounds of malt, and then that helps break everything up to help the lager go through. Well, the stick is for the grist case here. As the grain falls down into the auger, it kind of gets stuck in the corner, so that it's just a beaten stick.
Okay.
Yeah, turn it down.
Yeah.
That's why I was like, what? No, don't hit me.
Were you painting those today?
Not many of those. I think it's gonna get cold. Woo! Yeah. Oh. Nice. Yeah. Shit, the war killed.
Like I said, we've got 4 big serving tanks. Those hold 7 barrels of beer each, and then we've got 8 other taps for kegs. And right now in the serving tanks, we've got standard cream ale, woolen warmer, which Mike might need after this, Wildcat Golden Ale, and El Chivo Loco.
Yeah, I can feel the chills, Dave. I love it. How cold is it in here?
36.
36 degrees. It feels colder.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. All right.
You guys want to try some beers?
Absolutely.
Oh yes.
So Steve, what do we have here?
Well, Mike, you are drinking the Brickyard Red Ale. That is our newest beer. It's kind of a classic red or amber ale made with Munich malt and a little bit of malted oats as well.
That's really good. It's very good.
It's got a little toasty character from the Munich, and it's just a nice malty.
I can see drinking many of these. Actually.
Yeah, oh yeah.
It's just that, it's the drinkability is very good.
Thank you.
What do I got here?
That is the barrel-aged oatmeal stout. That we brewed in the fall, and it came out of the fermenter at 8.8%, and then went into bourbon barrels and spent 5 months in bourbon barrels. And we pulled that out for Indiana Stout Day in February, and it turned out really nice. The bourbon character is just perfect.
It's not overpowering.
No,
It's
no.
it's just right.
Yeah, yeah, and it's got the kind of smoothness from the
Yes.
oatmeal and the grist. And
That's very nice.
it's a nice roasty malt.
Absolutely. What else have you got?
Well, I've got the Indiana Pale Ale right here. It is a session pale ale made with Indiana malt and hops. The malt came from our friends up at Sugar Creek, and the hops came from White River hops down in Hayesville and Indy High Vines on the south side of
So
Indianapolis.
it's a true Indiana
True
beer.
Indiana beer, yes.
That's what we like.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And then we've got 7 other beers on the draft lines up here. Our standard cream ale is kind of our first flagship beer. This was a standard gas station, for a long time.
Absolutely.
And so we knew, being in Greene County, the local populace would be a lot of standard American lager drinkers, and so we wanted something to appeal to them. And the standard cream ale fits that bill. It's a lawnmower beer, good summertime beer. You can sit and drink them all day long and do what needs to be done. The next one is our woolen warmer. We came out with that right before Christmas. It's a Weizenbock, which is a dark strong wheat beer. So it's got it's not as roasty as the stout, but it's nice and dark and got some caramel and toffee flavors to it. And the wheat just adds a really nice complexity. The next one up is the Wildcat Golden Ale. I live in an area known as Wildcat, right next to Wildcat School.
Absolutely.
And so we wanted to have a beer for that area of Greene County. It's a British Golden Ale, which is what in the early 1900s they called Britain's answer to the Pilsner beer. So it's a moderately hoppy golden ale made with Maris Otter malt, which has got a real nice toasty flavor to it. And the hops are East Kent Goldens, which are just kind of floral and earthy in flavor as compared to the more peppery, citrusy German hops. The next one is the El Chivo Loco. It's a Mexican amber lager. So when you go to Casa Sevilla for dinner and get the Dos Equis amber or the Modelo Dark, that's the same style of beer as those, which is actually based on the Vienna lager from Vienna, Austria. Made with Vienna malt and continental European hops. The next tap is Blank. because it's the cherry wheat, and we're on the last keg of that.
Oh, no.
And we had a good friend yesterday put in an order for 10 crowlers this afternoon, so
Wow.
it's probably going to be gone today.
What's 10 crowlers cost?
10 crowlers, it depends on the beer, but 10 crowlers of the cherry wheat is, I think those are $10, so it'd be $100.
And and to me, that's money well spent.
Yeah,
Absolutely. That's very much worth it.
2.5 gallons of beer, so that's enough to get
And
you
not
through the
just
day.
beer, but local.
Local beer,
Local
yes,
beer.
absolutely.
Absolutely.
And that cherry wheat turned out real nice. It's an American wheat base, and we use tart and sweet Michigan cherry juice in it whenever we packaged it, and it's got that cherry tartness without the medicinal cough syrup that you sometimes get from cherry flavoring. So it turned out really good. We've got our brown ale, which is it's a dark malty beer. It's a little bit of chocolate notes and toffee, and it doesn't have the roastiness that you're going to get out of a stout, and it's certainly an easier drinking anytime beer for sure. It's a little bit darker than like a Newcastle, but it's been a very popular beer. The Furnace is our smoked porter.
It is smoky.
Yeah, that's a polarizing beer style for sure. Not a lot of people are lukewarm on smoked beers,
Definitely.
but it's got alder smoked malt from Sugar Creek.
I've always noticed I can do one, but
Right. Yeah, that's not the kind of beer you're gonna sit and drink 4 or 5 of probably.
right.
But it's good for around a campfire, maybe with a cigar, a glass of scotch too.
Absolutely. There you go. So, Steve, tell us how you started brewing beer.
Actually, about 7 years ago for Christmas, my dad got me a 1 gallon brew your own beer kit. Came with like a little gallon carboy, it looks like a growler, and the ingredients to make a pale ale. And I had some friends that were already home brewing. A couple of them were really serious about it, brewing like a barrel of beer at a time. But some local friends were, brewing 5 gallon extract batches, and so we joined up and brewed that batch of beer. And I made it was a pale ale. It was okay for my first shot, and I overfilled the carboy and just had it sitting in the basement or in the stairwell to the basement, and it shot beer about 3 feet out of the top of the carboy all along the wall when the yeast really got roaring. So that was lesson number 1 in home brewing. But I quickly progressed from that to 5 gallon batches of extract beer, and then decided I wanted to get into all grain brewing and kegging my beer because I hated bottling beer. So a good friend of mine, I contacted him to go look at some kegs in Indianapolis that were for sale, and he said, "Well, if you want kegs, I've got a couple, you can just have them." And I said, "Okay, that's fine." And so I go up to his house, and he says, "I've got all this other stuff too if you want it." And he had a mash tun, he had CO2 bottles, he had 5 gallon carboys, he had another boil kettle. So I quickly was able to jump into all grain brewing. At that point, I got hundreds of dollars worth of stuff for nothing. I'm an engineer by trade, so I was really working on dialing in, like making sure I was hitting my numbers as far as, what I was trying to do with ABV and just really dialing the processes in to get there, get the flavors right. And 4 years ago, this building came up for sale, and Happy Matt, who's set up in the parking lot right now,
Absolutely.
he was set up then, and he said, "Hey, they're selling that building, you should buy that, and you can make beer in there, and I can do the food, and it'd be great." I said, "Matt, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life." And I went home and told my wife, and she was like, "Well, isn't that dumb? I think Bloomfield could use something like this."
Absolutely.
And,
Absolutely.
we both lived here our whole lives.
I'm an original Bloomfield.
Yeah,
So there you
yeah.
go.
So, there used to be everything in Bloomfield. 100 years ago, 50 years ago, every industry you'd need was right here in town. But
Absolutely.
as people got more mobile and businesses got more efficient, you could offer cheaper prices outside of town, and you could go outside of town to get it. So things just started shutting down. So in my whole life, that's all I've seen really. But you get the occasional new business coming into town, but for the most part, it's just this business closed because the people retired and they didn't have anybody to take it over, or they moved out of town because the business wasn't really pulling in enough revenue, and so we read some articles about breweries kind of being the cornerstone for revitalizing communities, and so we thought that could be a good opportunity here.
And there's not too many around.
No, that when we started our business plan, we put Greene County in the middle of the wheel, and there's I think 8 or 9 counties around us. And if you take Monroe County out of it, at this point in time, 4 years ago, there was one brewery in all of those counties of 300,000 people, and that's Salt Creek over in Bedford.
Really?
So,
And I tell you what, I mean, well, there's nothing like local beer.
There's not.
There's nothing like local beer.
I
absolutely.
mean, you can buy beer on the shelf all day long, and it tastes nothing like it does.
Oh yeah, it doesn't get any fresher.
Absolutely. I do a little brewing story about the explosion of beer.
Yeah.
My grandfather, who lived up on Seminary Street, put a bunch of beer in the bottom of the sink, underneath the sink at my grandmother's house, and it exploded.
Nice.
So, and there's one of those
Yeah.
everywhere. Josh,
My explosion story was I was trying to tap a keg.
Yeah.
On a bar back, and I got beer all over me.
Oh yeah.
I was underage. It wasn't that bad. But my question for you is, what kind of history behind this building that we're in currently is that you can tell us about? I mean, I know this place has been around for a minute.
This building was built in, I believe, 1922 or 1923. So it's coming up on 100 years old. It was actually originally part of the same business of the building next door, which everybody knows is the woolen mill. And when they were originally built, it was an artificial flower factory. And so I don't know for sure, but I assume this was probably like the storefront.
Storefront.
Right, because that was just a factory over there. They had at the time the basement and 2 floors, and they built a floor on later. That I assume was all just manufacturing. And the Holtzclaw family bought this in 1939.
Absolutely.
And so I assume the flour factory probably went under during the Great Depression, and actually the paperwork we got when we bought the property kind of lined up with that. Right in the 30s, that business closed. Another one came in, and then they closed, and in 39 this part was sold. And I assume that part was when that became the woolen mill. So the Holtzclaws bought it, Fred and Catherine. And they ran kind of a convenience store out of here. They had a little hamburger shop for a while. They had 2 garage bays right back here, and so they did some vehicle work and small engine repair. He had a tow truck. They sold snacks and stuff. And then in 1971, Milford and JD took over, and Milford actually lived in an apartment in the back. And in 1987, somebody tried to break in, and Milford came out to see what was going on and got shot. And so he was actually killed here, and that was in August of 1987. And when we bought the place, the apartment in the back looked like Jay had probably not been back there since August of 1987, to include a calendar still hanging on the wall from then. So I'm sure it was really hard for him.
Absolutely. I was lucky enough to grow up pretty much coming to this store whenever Milford had it. And, we'd come down, the Bald Island is right there. So we'd come down, we would buy bait here. My dad was good friends with the Holtzclaws, and so he bought a lot of guns, traded a lot of guns here. So I was very fortunate enough to have a place like this to come and, get bait. One of Milford's famous sayings, you're gonna eat those here, you wanna take them with you. Absolutely. And I can still remember that, standing pretty much right here,
Yeah.
right where you would have said that. You have done amazing things with this building. This is,
Wow.
I really like that you have taken something that was part of my childhood and turned it into this and saved it. And that's awesome. I think you're definitely, you guys are, what you've done in the community has been a great thing.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
So a couple more questions here. Okay, so this is still pretty new. Where do you see yourself as a business owner 10 years from now as a brewery?
So yeah, we've been open 6 months, and it's been an interesting 6 months in the middle of a pandemic. It still doesn't quite feel real, You can see that the floors are pretty bare in here. We don't have in-house or inside dining and drinking yet. Hoping to do that real soon. The vaccine's rolling out, and things are looking up with that. So that's a fantastic thing. But kind of 10 years down the road, I don't have a crystal ball that's that clear, but our goal is to be putting out somewhere in the range of 500 to 1,000 barrels a year. Mostly in-house with kegs out in the community. We may start packaging in cans at some point. It's not gonna be anytime soon, but that's a whole.
Can you speed that up, because we would like to take the Peach Store beer with us.
Yeah.
He actually has beer in Bloomington right now.
I do,
At
at
Switch
Switch
Yard,
Yard.
yes,
Yes,
and
that's
my
right.
son is actually working Switch Yard now. He makes pizzas,
Okay, great.
but he's actually bragged about your beer and said, yeah, Dad, we have that on tap up there.
And it's really cool that Brickyard is selling local beer. I mean,
Yeah, they actually just started packaging their beer in the last few months, and a lot of breweries in the last year have really had to change how they're doing everything, right? Having kegs of beer is not an easy way to sell beer right now, because even with things being more open, people aren't going out as much.
And we enjoy Switch Yard.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
We absolutely do. I think it's great that they're putting your beer on tap.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
Curtis was actually in here last Sunday, and he was telling me, we're putting so much out in cans that we're running out of beer in the tap room. And then Monday morning he called me and was like, hey, would you have any kegs you could let go up here? We decided that if we can't fill the taps with our own beer, we'd like to fill it with other local beer. And so they put us on, Civilian out of Spencer, trying to think who else they got on, but I think maybe Cedar Creek out of Martinsville, and filled up the taps with those. So we put 3 beers up there, the Pale Ale, the Furnace, and the Wildcat Golden Ale.
All right, one more question before we have to go back across the river. Food. What's the future of food at?
Everybody wants a restaurant. That's one thing we found out when we started down the path of opening this place in Bloomfield. Was the first question asked. Well, the first question asked was, really, you're opening a brewery in Bloomfield? But
And I think that's great.
yeah, the quick follow-up question was, what kind of food are you gonna have?
I'm a foodie.
Yeah.
You can't tell.
I enjoy
know you
food.
can't tell.
I enjoy food.
We do have a space set aside for a kitchen. Our plan for the immediate future is to utilize food trucks. We've had a lot of luck with those.
What do we
Love
have?
Happy Matt.
We have Happy Matt.
Happy Matt's out there today.
Matt O'Neill, everybody.
Fantastic hamburgers, great barbecue. The tenderloins, I think, are the best in the area. My father-in-law always gets the fish
I can
sandwich.
attest to Happy Matt's.
I've been there a few times. It's really
It's
good.
good. It's
Yeah.
very good.
Yeah.
Doing a
Yeah.
good job, Matt.
Yeah. On Thursday nights, we have Serena's Food Hut. She does pizzas and stroms and other
I need to come over and
sandwiches.
try that. We need to come over and try that, actually.
I mean, it's right next door to, we're just coming to eat, obviously.
Yeah.
We're not here to drink.
We had, blanking here, taco truck out of Bloomington. I can't remember La Poblana. They did awesome. They sold out. They were here until 8:30 that night with a line out
And
the
who
road.
doesn't like tacos?
Oh yeah. So
especially
we're definitely gonna have them
Perfect,
back.
perfect beer food.
Fat Daddy's Barbecue out of Lyons with the
Daddy's
chicken
Barbecue.
bones.
Nice.
They're fantastic. So, but we have space set aside for a kitchen. It's just storage right now. We're planning at the very least to put in like a small commissary kitchen kind of deal, so we can, for now, if we have a food truck that they blow out a tire or come down sick or whatever, we can throw some stuff together in our kitchen to.
Beer battered fish and chips. Beer battered.
His
Tacos.
Irish is coming out,
Yeah.
Steve.
Beer, cheese, and pretzels.
Beer
cheese,
cheese.
Well, hey, we appreciate your time
Yeah.
today. It's
Thanks
been
for
awesome.
coming in, guys.
Love the place.
Yeah, good to see you again.
Feed store, brewing company, beer
Bloom-
company. I'm sorry, beer company.
Bloomfield.
Bloomfield, Indiana.
Bloomfield, Indiana.
Green County, come down and see them.
And I need to refill.
Right.
Yeah,
Of a
we
different
need
beer.
refills.
I'm too short to drink bad beer. Pour me another one. Life's too short to drink bad beer. Drink, brothers. Pour me another one.
And remember, life is too short.
To drink bad beer.
Drink local.
We're having a good time tonight.